The tabletop takeaway.
Game mechanics on display.
Three designers share the stage.
Pick a genre and we'll play.
The tabletop takeaway.
Welcome back to the Tabletop Takeaway and our bonus episode on hidden movement. I'm Trevor Muller-Hagel.
I'm Ananda.
And I'm Charlie McCarran.
And now we're just going to talk about what we've learned from these hidden movement games.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe about...
And some other hidden movement games too.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of in general, what we like about this genre.
And we started with Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard, yep.
Then kind of the classic hidden movement game. Then to the Stifling Dark indie game that's newer. And then we played Captain Sonar, which is hidden movement plus a lot of other things, which we all really loved.
Yeah. There were a couple games we thought about playing but didn't, like Fury of Dracula and Nuns on the Run.
Yeah.
Each with its own interesting twists on the genre. I remember back in college I was really interested in the idea of Fury of Dracula, I guess.
How does that one work?
So in Fury of Dracula, the player who's hiding is Dracula, and so they move around, and the rest of the players are vampire hunters trying to kill Dracula. And Dracula goes around Europe and sort of seeds various, he creates vampires here and there, and leaves traps for the investigators or the vampire hunters to run into. And then, he's trying to get a certain number of vampires out while the investigators are trying to kill him. And combat uses these simultaneous reveal cards.
Interesting.
And it's a system that seems like it should be fun, but it just kind of feels like rock, paper, scissors. Like a more complex version of rock, paper, scissors. And that was sort of what made me a bit less enthusiastic about rock, paper, scissors style simultaneous reveal games. In general, I guess, comparing hidden movement games where you have to fight the hider to ones where you don't, I kind of like the ones where you don't more.
Yeah. Or if you are fighting them, it's more like the Stifling Dark, where you can impact them but not damage them, or you're not trying to kill them.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the Stifling Dark, it's more that the hider is trying to murder you.
Right, exactly.
And you're kind of helpless. I don't like the thing where you have to find them, and then there's a separate combat system where you're fighting each other and blocking damage. And
ideally, you have it like in the great game Captain Sonar, where you have just shoot a torpedo in a space and hope that's it. Essentially, like the Stifling Dark too, where it's like the flashlight is like the torpedo.
Yeah, it's like absolute damage as opposed to contested damage, I guess. Or fiat. Yeah. How do you say that? Fiat damage. You make the damage happen if you guess the right place.
Yeah. Totally.
Instead of, I found you, now let's resolve this some other way.
I mean, well, we didn't even reference the original idea of Battleship, which spawned Captain Sonar.
Yeah.
There's no movement, but it's essentially like maybe one of the first hidden.
Yeah, where you're trying to guess
spaces.
And your revealing information is when you finally hit something.
Yeah.
So it's not really like a randomly generated or like,
Yeah.
You just happen to hit part of the ship, and now it's going to be left, right, down, up from that, and that's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about hidden movement, other games like Escape from the Aliens from Outer Space.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was the one I mentioned with the hex grid system, and everyone's kind of hidden at the same time. I'd love to see more of those games too.
Where you have a lot of hidden information?
Yeah.
Or like everyone's hidden from each other?
Yep. But I think one of the downfalls is in a game where you're hidden so well that it does feel random, like in Scotland Yard.
Once you can get away,
yeah,
you have no idea where they are.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what I really like about Letters from Whitechapel versus Scotland Yard is just more how that's laid out. And then, you have more choice involved as Jack the Ripper, and you're trying to kill different, streetwalkers. Sorry. That's what you're doing. But yeah, it feels like you have choice in that, if I remember right.
So for the benefit of the listeners,
oh sure,
Letters from Whitechapel is another hidden movement game where
where Jack the Ripper basically takes on the role of Mr. X from what we just talked about, Scotland Yard. Thank you. That's what I was brain farting about. And basically, Jack the Ripper starts off by killing someone, and so you can kind of get a feel for where you can start as the investigators. You're a little bit more limited, I think, in what you can do in terms of movement as the investigators, but it's steady and you don't run out of it. So it's not like a resource mechanic as it is in Scotland Yard. But then, obviously, Jack the Ripper does have more of those wild cards that they can use to get past the investigators and gets on to murdering someone else, and they have to murder a certain number of people in the night before they win. So you can also kind of play that a little bit too. That game as the investigators.
Yeah, and I'm realizing now another major advantage of Letters from Whitechapel over its predecessor, Scotland Yard, is you have a goal as the Jack the Ripper. You have to get to the locations to kill the people, so the police officers can kind of like know where you might be going towards.
Right. And they can work in between the two instead of just like having to surround you only.
Yeah.
And so, and like there is some variance there too, because you can switch who you're targeting and go after someone else, which is great. Just being able to change your objective on the fly like that. Yeah.
So when I was teaching game design, one of my student groups made a hidden movement game that was about Dracula at the circus or something, and they came up with this theme, and it's like the clowns are trying to kill Dracula or something, maybe vice versa.
With balloon animals,
and and they came up with this whole idea, and I was like, "Oh, you guys are making a hidden movement game," and they didn't really know of any, so they just like came up with the mechanics, kind of.
Oh, that's incredible!
Scotland Yard. I'm like, wow, you guys. So I was proud of them.
That's awesome.
But it was fun to see that process from the beginning, because I could see all the pitfalls of the hidden movement.
Oh, trying to design it from scratch.
I'm like, you guys are taking on a tough task, because it's going to feel very random at first, and their game did. It was like, well, how do we figure out where this person is? They're just moving silently, randomly through the thing.
Right.
And gradually they added in aspects that helped, like tools that the clowns could use, and like there's specific points that Dracula had to get to.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm curious to try making one of these games myself, just to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like there's a fine balance in that you do need to give them information, and I think sort of like I was mentioning earlier, you also, if you locate the target, you should be rewarded.
Yeah.
Having a separate step where you find them and you have to do something else. No, I think, based on, what we've looked at in these games.
Yeah.
If you shine a flashlight on them, reward. If you hit them with a torpedo, reward.
Yeah.
You should get a reward if you find them, because that is the point of the game.
You land on them, you win.
Yeah, but that means that you do need enough information to find them.
Right.
And conversely, if you give them too much information, then it becomes too difficult, because you do have to reward people when they find them.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the difficult balance. How much information can you give them to keep the game fair?
Yeah.
And how do you reward them?
Which is perhaps why it's tempting to have a second mechanic to give the hider a defense if they get found. Because then it's easier to just give the seekers whatever information they want. But I think that is an impulse to avoid. And you just have to really focus on the balance instead.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about, you mentioned like be rewarded for finding a space that the hider was on. But also like and it's harder to do, I think, in a board game, but would be easier in a video game. Is like, ooh, we found some footprints that they just were at. They're fresh tracks or something like that. Would be nice in some of these games.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fear of Dracula has something a little like that, in that Dracula hides things on his trail, some of which are traps for the investigators, but others are like resources that if the investigators find them, they can destroy them. If they find them before they fall off the end of Dracula's trail, that is. So in that game, there is sort of a reward for finding stuff on the trail.
I believe Letters from Whitechapel has that, but maybe I'm misremembering. It has been a few years since I played that. But I do remember something about like, oh yeah, they were there at some point.
They were there. And it actually would be easy to do in that game because you're marking down all the locations you were at.
Yeah,
like
just like
Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard.
Yeah. What other, like, how would you implement hidden movement into a game, or what? I don't know. Have you thought about what you would do in a hidden movement game?
I guess, I don't know if I've actually tried making any hidden movement games. I
almost did once, but it was actually very strangely similar to the Stifling Dark, where it was little kids in a house and they had flashlights and they're trying to find a ghost. And it was very light, and I didn't actually end up getting hidden movement mechanics for another player. It was going to be more of a deck-based thing, so it wasn't actually like an active player, but that's the closest I've gotten, which I think could be a lot of fun, just having a sleepover kids party.
Yeah. I mean...
Actually,
yeah.
The three of us have made a hidden movement game called Nanobots.
Oh, you're right.
It's sort of like that, but... They didn't really move around.
They don't move.
But you chose
a hidden...
They could move.
It's a hidden... What is the genre for this? It's like
placement?
Battleship. Hidden placement.
Yeah. It's, I would say the genre is
Spatial deduction?
Yeah, / just logic.
Sure.
So that's... for the benefit of our listeners, that's a game where one person controls a bunch of evil nanobots, or maybe they're good nanobots. I don't know. Maybe
the surgeon's evil.
Yeah, maybe the surgeons are evil. But there are these nanobots that have infested someone's brain, and the other players are surgeons that are trying to find and remove the nanobots without destroying too much healthy brain tissue. And so, the surgeons have various ways to gather information about how many nanobots are in a certain slice of the brain, and then they have to try to remove them. But if they remove healthy tissue, that's bad. That's the basic gist of it. The nanobots don't move around. But you're right, Charlie. We have done something.
How are they represented on the board? Those nanobots.
Well, the nanobots have a secret card where they write down the locations of all of the nanobots.
But we got to come back to that at some point.
Yeah.
There's potential there.
Well, and then there's also we don't have to go into that one. The Bleak Friday.
Yeah.
I still have that.
That doesn't have hidden movement.
No, it doesn't have hidden movement. I was just remembering.
But it could.
That. It could. I was thinking the manager character could be a hidden movement character, and they're going around trying to spook the other employees.
Oh.
There we go.
Yeah.
Done.
Perfect.
Bleak Friday. They're actually killing the employees. Oh, no. On Black Friday. Anyway.
I had another thought, but it's gone now.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I was going to bring up is I was thinking about Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and maybe I just had the connection because we were talking about two games that were set in London.
Right.
Mystery games. But if you haven't played that game, it's almost like you're choosing locations on the map and getting clues about where the crimes, or stuff about the crimes. And you go through, there's a big sort of choose your own adventure style book where you get a little readout and then you decide where you want to go next. And it sort of almost has this hidden movement feel where it's like you feel like you're narrowing down clues. The map is a little arbitrary, so maybe it's... But there are some times when you're thinking about, like, okay, what's the plausible place that this criminal could have gone around the Thames River? And
Oh, yep.
yeah. I don't know. That just popped in my mind. But I think there are many more genres that have this feel that are on the fringe of being like a hidden movement type game. But
Is there another way we can flip the hidden movement? Kind of like how with the Stifling Dark, they flip it in that the investigators are not trying to find the bad guy, but are instead trying to find a way out versus...
Or
like
Nuns on the Run,
Nuns
where
on the
it's
Run.
a majority of players are hiding and there's a minority that's trying to find
searching.
them.
Yeah, is there another way we can flip that so that it's another like
Another
take on
inversion
this?
axis.
Yeah. I'd be really curious about that because like
I mean, that's
you can do whatever you want.
That's where you play in this game, and
yeah, in this world.
Oh,
the game we played.
I actually tried running in this game, the game design version that I made up at Kubla Khan.
Oh, how'd it go?
Pretty well.
Yeah.
It doesn't work as well as the narrative version.
Sure.
But it works all right. Some
Awesome.
refinements are necessary.
Got to playtest your playtester.
If listeners are totally confused right now, you should go back to the episode in this world in our storytelling series. So very clever.
Which I believe was number 3.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a very clever way to generate ideas for like a story or maybe
World
a
building,
game.
or characters or whatever really creative thing you want to create. Yeah.
But the game design lesson is you write out like all the things about
the stereotypes.
the genre, the stereotypes.
Yeah.
And then pick one, invert it. And then pick another thing about it and invert that.
Or reinforce why that's there.
reinforce it,
Yeah.
Yep.
So
No, it's a great tool, and if you haven't seen it, you should look into it.
Yeah.
I think I even shared in our Discord that it's the one time I've actually said, "Hey, you should look into this because it's actually like really helpful and cool."
yeah.
Like from a creative perspective.
But back to your question about other inversions.
Yes, inversions
Of hidden movement.
on
Yeah.
hidden movement. I mean, what are the?
Because what are the
What can you
stereotypes
do?
of hidden movement?
I mean, we've already got like one person hiding, everyone seeking. That's been inverted. We've got the person hiding is running away. That's inverted, right?
They're normal map type movements. Maybe there's an inversion of that. So normally you can just like
There's a physical map.
physical
there's,
map that you're moving around on like different grid or space.
So
to
it's like what
space.
you do a temporal version where they're moving through time. You have to look at the echoes of their actions to figure out where they are.
Sure.
That's actually really neat. Just saying those words at least.
Sure.
Time travel games are hard though.
Yeah, as someone who's
Yeah.
designed one, I'm sure you know that.
Okay, sure. So you can play around with space, I guess.
Casually space-time manipulation. Yeah, I posed a
There's the
really
idea-
challenging question here.
Well, I think I mentioned nyctophobia in the episode where the inversion is you don't even know where you're going.
Right.
Like-
right. Yes.
Nyctophobia, you have the blinders on, so you don't even really know what the map looks like.
Yeah, you don't know where you are.
Yeah.
What if you could play off that and you can see yourself, but you don't... It's really bad, so I apologize. But you can see yourself, but you don't have control over what you're doing. You have control of something else.
Oh, so like you don't control your character's motion, but
Right.
it's sort of
Their
like a
movement is...
it's like a lemming situation
Yeah,
where
kind of.
you manipulate the environment to get your
Exactly.
investigator to go
Right.
in the way you want them to go.
That could be interesting.
Yeah, and
Thank you for saving it.
maybe you're adjusting the environment, and everyone can see how you're adjusting the environment, but
Yeah.
only you can see the ghosts and how their path will be affected by it.
Oh, sure. Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah.
So you each have hidden movement cards that are what your thing's going to do, and you manipulate the environment because that's going to come out next.
I mean, it could be
Next,
one.
kind of like a Scrabble hand.
Could be just one hidden mover, but
It could.
no one knows why they're manipulating things the way they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
See,
could work.
look at that.
And I like the idea that so in a lot of these games you're just writing down on your secret pad,
Sure.
but I like the idea that you're actually putting physical things on the board instead, as little clues. along the way.
Oh, sure, little breadcrumbs.
Like maybe literally breadcrumbs.
Literally
and you're trying to
breadcrumbs.
get the hidden mice to come to get those.
The
crumbs.
ghost mice.
That doesn't sound bad.
Yeah.
It's a game idea. Anyway, takeaways.
Takeaways.
Takeaway,
from hidden
takeaways.
movement. Yeah.
Yes.
What would we
you-
use to design a hidden movement game?
Well, yeah, I
I
think
think
my
it's a good takeaway.
I think my takeaway is sort of what I mentioned closer to the beginning of this episode, that if you have a hidden movement game and you find the thing you're looking for, you should be rewarded. There shouldn't be any sort of barrier in the way of that. You find it, you get the reward. You don't need to like roll dice or do whatever.
But there could be an extra thing that you could get extra, but you automatically get something.
Yeah, if you find the thing, you get the reward.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway.
My takeaway is definitely revolves around when information is revealed, and it needs to be kind of steady. And I think even though, like, you know, Scotland Yard has a very specific track of when things are revealed, I like the variable reveal, just like Stifling Dark, with shining the flashlight on the character and bam, it's there. I love those kind of jump scare moments. Or even in Captain Sonar, we have to surface. Great, other team's coming to kill you now. Like, just having those little trade-off moments where the reveal is part of the mechanics and does something else to the game. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think my takeaway / what I want to try maybe with the hidden movement game would be not just a clear cut, oh, we see them or we don't see them.
Sure.
Even though I do like that too. I like the fun.
The jump scare.
That's where they are.
Hey!
But I think like how torpedoes and mines work in Captain Sonar, where you get a piece of the information. If you get a dead on hit, you got them. But you'll get like a 1 point of damage if you're
They're
in the
near it.
surrounding area.
Yeah.
So I think like a gradient, even more of like you get like little hints about.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned we saw the footprints, so maybe there's thematic things about it, like, oh, they left behind this, so we know that they went in this direction.
Or it's even a resource so that you get like something for finding this clue about where they went. You
Yeah.
know, it's like a nice little trade-off puzzle.
Cool.
I like it.
Yeah. Hidden movement, very fun one that I think was suggested by a listener, possibly.
I think it was actually suggested by multiple listeners.
Oh, okay.
Which was great and made it very easy to decide to do this.
Yeah.
Which I will say right off the top, Jeremy Geenan was one of the people who had designed The Stifling Dark and requested Hidden Movement, but he gave us a list of like 5 or 6 and did not include his game.
Yeah.
So
That was, I think he just wanted to...
he wanted to know more
he
about
wanted
Hidden
to
Movement.
know more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I definitely admire. It's
Yeah.
great.
So, cool. Well, with that wraps up our Hidden Movement series. Tune in next time for a new series, TBD.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, thanks for listening to The Tabletop Takeaway. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. So please tell your friends and visit our website at thetabletoptakeaway.com, where you can suggest games and mechanics for us to cover next on the show.